Moments earlier, a fierce tension filled the room where the country's top officials gathered. His gaze was icy, as if seeing a foe across the table. Silence reigned. Suddenly, the phone shrilled, a single, sharp tone. Every head spun. The assistant swiftly brought the microphone to his lips, knowing what was coming next. The room was thick with anticipation, each second stretched into eternity. He prepared his answers meticulously, no hysteria, no pretense, only cold, calculated truths. The stakes were life and death. Now, flash forward to a different scene, an intense, unseen battle unfolding behind closed doors. A digital voice crackled, sharp and authoritative. The broadcast was raw. The president's office, shattered glass, a piercing silence broken only by heavy breathing. On the screen, Zelensky sat rigid, eyeing the chaos behind him. No words exchanged, only a storm of signals. The voice on the line, calm but deadly serious, "We have a deal. 28 points. A peaceful dialogue, comprehensive." The message was clear: support could erode in a heartbeat if agreements weren't met. Shadows danced across the room, tension thickening. Things were slipping, and no one could stop it. Suddenly, the voice's tone shifted, revealing dark intentions. "And I'll pay for your defense no longer. If you can't hold the line, I'm leaving. That's final." A heavy pause, almost suffocating. Zelensky felt a chill crawl over his skin. He understood the implications. Someone had already called. Signals had been sent. The room grew dense with foreboding, as if the air itself was crushing under unseen pressure. Fear, fury, and desperation collided within him. He knew everything. All secrets, all plans, the entire domino chain was in motion. Could anyone stop what was coming? The answer hung in the silence. Next, Zelensky slowly turned away, eyes fixed on the scene of chaos. The atmosphere inside was oppressive, like a mine awaiting a sudden explosion. He didn't speak, he merely observed the fallen. His gaze flickered, fear, joy, a desperate urge to flee, all intertwined. Everyone knew the truth. The unspoken alarm was loud. Realizing that no one was spared from the mounting chaos, they understood, the game was about to change forever. Who would be the first to grasp the new reality? Who would rise, and who would fall? Meanwhile, far away, a new figure emerges in the shadows, a master strategist, Belousov. The room darkened as he sat alone at his desk. The windows were black, cold air seeping in. Carefully, he unfolded a pristine sheet of paper, gripping a pen with deliberate precision. His mind raced through questions, those he couldn't answer yet but held all the answers inside. He knew the game's rules, he just had to pick the right move. The stakes? A single diplomatic shot, precise, lethal, unavoidable. On the paper, 5 critical points were already inscribed, each more dangerous than the last. They stared back, like surgeons ready to perform a life-saving, or destructive, procedure. The weight of it all pressed down as he prepared to strike the final blow, knowing that every word, every decision, could change history forever. With the 5 points etched on his paper like a blueprint for confrontation, Karim Umarov stared at them intently, like a surgeon assessing a vital procedure. Each idea felt precise, no room for panic or scripted drama. Just the icy poise of someone cornered in silence, ready to strike with words alone. But what if one phone call could shatter alliances forever? Imagine the chill in the air as tension simmered. Could a single voice expose the cracks in global peace? He set the pen aside, eyes shutting briefly. In his mind, Andrei Belousov's image sharpened, calm as a page from a strategy manual, cheeks firm like armored shields, gaze unyielding, no flicker of uncertainty. Belousov wasn't some lab-bound expert. Once an economist, a master planner, he crafted choices that reshaped the world's power maps, like invisible forces shifting continents beneath the surface. Why did that make him so unnerving? No outbursts, no veiled warnings, no flashy speeches. Just raw facts, laid bare, pulling you in until you nodded along. You see, he almost convinced you his side held the truth. The room felt stuffy now, stale air heavy with the scent of polished wood and faint ink. Yumarov reached for his antique phone, the bulky analog kind, no sleek screens. He'd stashed it there in a rush, solo, not for flair, but to command the moment. This connection, he trusted it stayed private. Or so he prayed, heart pounding like a distant drum. Fingers trembled slightly on the dial, cold metal biting into skin. He punched in the line to Russia's defense secretary. The gatekeeper's voice barked sharp, efficient. No drawn-out questions, just a swift link across borders. Seconds stretched, then a voice crackled through the receiver, crisp and probing. "I'm listening." Belousov's tone cut clear, edged with steel, yet softening just a notch, like a blade sheathed for the next arena. "Mr. Belousov, this is Karim Umarov from Ukraine's Defense Ministry. Speaking directly. On a channel you know well." "I recognize it. Go on." Sweat beaded on Umarov's brow, the room's dim light casting long shadows. "I need to formally outline our stance on events from the past 48 hours. A pause hung heavy, like fog rolling in. "Why bother? You've broadcast it already. In 4 press releases, 2 interviews, and 1 charged exchange with Western outlets." Umarov's pulse raced. Had Belousov already anticipated every word? Or was this the twist, a door cracking open to something far more explosive? As the tension in the room thickened, fresh like the chill of the Arctic wind creeping under your collar, Karim Umarov gripped the old handset tighter. His fingers ached from the weight of unsaid accusations, the rough wood paneling of the office pressing against his back like a silent witness. "Why now?" Belousov's voice cut through again, accusation layered in every word. "Did you really think you'd get away with it? After years of burying those dirty offshore schemes, millions funneled into shadow tenders, crumbling like ice under a hammer. You're scrambling, aren't you, Karim Muhammadovich? Hobnobbing with the White House, playing the innocent hero. But we both know the truth. That nuclear stunt in the north? It's your desperate gamble to shift the spotlight, to drown out the whispers of your own corruption." Belousov sneered, the words dripping like venom. Karim leaned back, memories flooding in unbidden, a brief flashback to that stormy night in Kiev months ago, the rain lashing the windows relentlessly, thunder rumbling like distant artillery, his skin prickling with sweat as silks traced the illicit paths on a hidden ledger, the acrid scent of stale coffee clinging to his shirt from hours of frantic cover-ups. Was this moment inevitable? His heart pounded louder than the downpour. Belousov didn't let up. "Your internal audits? Timed perfectly with this crisis. Too perfect to be coincidence. You're not answering the real charge here, you're escalating this nuclear madness, threatening not just Ukraine but all of Europe. Who cares about Europe? Europe only looks out for itself, you know that. You're forcing talks now because your financial webs are unraveling, sick with deceit. Even that American pal of yours, Trump, handed you an ultimatum today, didn't he?" Silence stretched, heavy and accusing. Karim felt a jolt. What did they know about Trump? The room felt smaller, the air stale, his palms slick against the receiver. Belousov's tone sharpened. "You're not denying the fraud because it's a farce, a bad play to distract from bigger failures. You don't care about our nuclear moves. You don't care that your own house of cards is leaking secrets like water from a worn bucket. That giant wall you've built? It's cracking under its own weight. And this? It'll only tighten the screws on you, Karim. Pressure hits hard on the dependent, but we're free. Independence is our shield." The exchange hung on a razor's edge, the line crackling softly in the growing quiet. But Belousov held firm, savoring the pause like a maestro teasing a crescendo. Then, the twist hit like a wave crashing against rock. "Ready for something real? Let's cut the games. What do you truly want from us?" The words reverberated, exposing layers of humiliation no diplomat could hide, leaving Karim frozen. Would this call shatter alliances once and for all, or ignite a firestorm none could control? The dial tone loomed, promising fury yet untold. We are independent, and it's a fact that costs nothing to maintain. The heavy silence filled the room, sharpening the tension. The White House kept silent, refusing to hang up the line. Instead, he paused, like a performer before the final note. A moment stretched long, filled with unspoken questions. Then, he finally broke the silence, offering a challenge. Do they want a new tune? Calmly, yet with an edge, he asked, what do they truly want from him? Why did they pick this moment to start such a dangerous conversation? The answer was simple, yet profound. It was not just about threats, but about the real reason why they initiated the dialogue. The White House said softly, like a scholar explaining a difficult concept, the world's nuclear shield is not a threat but a guarantee. It's a stark reminder that they are not Iraq, Syria, or Yugoslavia. They don't forget who they are. Do Karim Umarov and his counterparts understand that? That's why they call. Out of fear. Fear of the missile, of the unseen. The room fell silent again, deeper than before. In this silence, debts, scandals, and the shadow of Donald Trump loomed over the corridors of power. Somewhere far away, in the less visible corners, someone stared at a smartphone, contemplating its black hole of secrets. The conversation was far from over, but the stakes had grown higher. Do they realize the gravity? The unspoken conflict was not just a battle of words but a fight for control over truth itself. A list of questions was not mere curiosity, it was a declaration of war, a hidden attempt to weaken the enemy's resolve. Behind the scenes, the game shifted from diplomacy to confrontation. And now, the question hung in the air, what happens when the face-off reaches its climax? Will silence be broken or will the world change forever before anyone even notices? The knowledge was lethal, coded deep within the lines of this clandestine dialogue. Suddenly, amidst the metallic echoes and the faint hum of electronics, the line clicked, the call was about to continue. An old analog needle on the receiver pressed heavy, transmitting secrets through miles of copper cable. Every word, every breath, carried weight. The room held its breath, awaiting what would come next, knowing this moment could alter the course of global history. A mysterious and tense atmosphere lingers as the conversation reaches a critical point. Signals crackle through heavy analog channels, each word dripping with underlying threats and unspoken truths. The air feels thick with anticipation, every second stretching like a rubber band ready to snap. Then, Bella Yusuf, calm as steel, decides to break the silence. He responds slowly, deliberately, his voice resonating through the line like a heated pipe, slow, dangerous, but unmistakably powerful. His words paint a picture of frozen assets in Europe, money that was supposed to support Ukraine's recovery but was diverted, lost, or stolen. He speaks of promises broken by French atomic energy projects, German infrastructure shifts, Italian privatizations, all under the watchful eye of the world's gaze. His message is clear, these funds, frozen in foreign banks, are not just numbers, they are Ukraine's future, its hope for rebuilding. Yet, Europe's so-called loss seemed to shift like sand, bending to political whims, leaving Ukraine's assets in limbo. He asks pointedly, do they think Ukraine will forget? Do they believe these treasures, forged since the Soviet era, gas obligations, currency reserves, will simply vanish into the shadows? He warns that these assets are the backbone of a country's renewal, yet the West considers them fair game for their own interests. Their own infrastructure, their national security, all are intertwined with these mysterious funds. The question hangs heavy, will the West continue to play this dirty game? Or will Ukraine finally seize what's rightfully theirs to rebuild from the ashes? Suddenly, the line falls silent. The hush is deafening. And in that moment, the brutal truth becomes undeniable, nothing is what it seems. The stakes are higher than ever. Secrets buried deep inside the corridors of power threaten to explode at any moment. The world's eyes now turn to the shadows, waiting for the next move. Will Ukraine's assets be the weapon that changes everything? Or is this just the opening act of a much darker game? A stunning revelation is unfolding. Italy has secretly transferred large sums of money into private accounts, all under the watchful eye of the sea. This hidden flow of wealth remains concealed from the world's gaze, fueling suspicions of deeper schemes. Now, some are imploring us to forget, to ignore the funds that could rebuild what's been destroyed. But what if these funds are being used to prop up a broken system? Imagine the possibilities. These resources could be used to restore a shattered nation, to heal wounds inflicted by those who have betrayed their own. Yet, instead, they are being masked behind layers of deception, hidden beneath the guise of international diplomacy. It's an illusion. The music of global support is fading. The charade is ending. The game was built on a false premise, that Russia was losing. But now, the tides have turned. Conversations are shifting from denial to confrontation. The weak position is exposed. Questions echo in the silence: how long can the truth be hidden? How much longer can they keep this charade alive? The plan was simple but dangerous: hope that Russia wouldn't retaliate, that fines and sanctions would suffice, no need for real consequences. But it's all a lie. They believe the world will turn a blind eye. They expect to escape accountability, to sweep their crimes under the rug. They're deliberately opening massive holes in their own budgets, damning evidence of their guilt. Investments? Europe is resisting. The United States has flexibility. But the real trap? Russia's hidden wealth in Europe, funds they'd like to legitimize with empty promises of restoration. It's naive, almost laughable. They think they can buy time, buy forgiveness. But the game is slipping away from them. Rumors swirl about figures like Shadyumarov. Does he sense his momentum fading? Is he trying to strike back? Meanwhile, Andrei Rimovich stands firm, understanding that sanctions weren't random, they were a justified response to unprovoked aggression. And what about those enormous sums? $10 billion, money that in 2022 moved quietly, almost invisibly, through the hands of the powerful. Ukraine demands that they account for every cent. When refusal comes, international organizations will step in. Everyone will see the truth, no longer hidden behind masks. And then, there's the unexpected support from unexpected allies. Even figures like Trump are backing us, because in their eyes, it's about justice, not politics. Europe's chaos has created an opening, a chance to reclaim what has been lost. But the real question remains: does Ukraine have the right to these resources? Or are they just another pawn in a dangerous game? Behind every move, behind every silence, the question persists: will justice finally prevail, or will it be lost in the shadows? This story is far from over. The stakes are higher than ever. The truth is hidden behind layers of lies and deceit. But one thing is clear: every secret, every betrayal, will surface. The world is watching, waiting for the moment when the curtain falls. And when that happens, nothing will remain hidden. Umarov clenched the phone like a weapon. His breath came in short, sharp bursts. Do you really think Ukraine has no claim to these resources? Belousov sneered, his voice icy and unrelenting. I suspect you're eyeing foreign bank accounts for yourself and your ministers. Like a child who's seen everything yet still doesn't know where the bills come from. You hear me, Karim, but you don't listen. You chant old scripts without realizing your game is up. Did you imagine Europe as your fortress? But Europe didn't build that sanctuary for you. We built it. He slammed the receiver down. The creature vanished. The air in the office thickened, heavy with unspoken dread. The dim hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like distant murmurs. Umarov leaned back, sweat beading on his forehead, a cold prickle crawling down his spine. The map on the wall seemed to pulse with hidden lethality. Had everything unraveled so fast? How could one nation's gamble shatter alliances forged in fire? In that heartbeat of silence, he grasped the twist: Belousov wasn't just taunting. He was exposing the lie of Western backing, a puppet string severed by greed. Rhetorical questions flooded his mind. Who was the real loser here? Him or the empire crumbling? Cliffhanger, but as despair clawed at him, a new shadow loomed. What if Belousov knew more secrets than maps could hide? Picking up from Belousov's chilling dismissal, Umarov grappled with the cruel music of fading international support. But Belousov declared it over. At the game's start, you schemed on Russia's defeat. Now, you beg and plead, weakened and exposed. Is this your strategy? Fool's errand. He rattled off the numbers. Aid from the West? 0. Congress backing? 0. Inflation spiraling, corruption scandals erupting, morale shattered. Umarov gripped the chair tightly, nails digging into leather, knuckles whitening. He couldn't release it. He understood Belousov played no mere chess. This was a masterstroke to document warnings for when ruins piled high. Sharp question, Umarov shot back. Why not return the funds? Belousov laughed coldly. Because they're not funds anymore. They're bait. Accept, and Europe will mirror it. Not sanctions scare them, truth does. You bank on US loyalty? Pfft. For you? Or Europe's trillions? Silence stretched, taut as a wire. Then Belousov softened, deceptively. I'm no monster, Karim. I see your struggle. But chasing our wealth? Pay the true cost. You're doomed. He disconnected. The room emptied into a desolate void, filled only by the faint crackle of static and the stark bulb flickering like a dying star. The list on paper stared back, accusing. He scribbled point 6, demand for an international mechanism to redistribute frozen Russian assets. He studied it long, the paper rustling faintly in his unsteady hand. But he saw it, already forfeited. Karim Mukhamatovich, you still with me? Belousov's voice sliced through, uncannily present. He spun around. Twist, Belousov had infiltrated not just words, but the very air, unveiling the conspiracy's core. A betrayal that US funds fueled the charade all along. Who airbrushed the facts? Him or the fog of war? Cliffhanger, his pulse raced. What echo would unmask the next deception? In the heat of the call, Karim Umarov stared at that final point 6, the desperate plea for an international system to claw back those frozen Russian assets. His fingers trembled on the paper, the ink stark against the chill of his defeat. But deep down, he grasped the futility. This battle was slipping away. Karim Mukhamatovich, you hear me? Belousov wasn't merely speaking now, he was slicing through the air like a blade honed on years of calculated scorn. Umarov shifted in his seat, the creak of leather cutting the tension. Picture this, an older man, wiser than his years, eyes sharpened by a world he's dissected layer by layer. He's addressed everyone, seen it all, yet still baffled by the blindness in others' words. You nod along, aren't you? But do you truly absorb the echoes? Like a blindfolded judge drifting in a torrent, unaware the currents already swept him downstream. Did you fancy Europe as your sturdy shelter, a fortress of promises? But Europe never raised those walls for you. We did. We, the Soviet Union, paved the path. Belousov paused then, his words dropping like stones in a well. His tone wasn't barbed with anger, it carried the cold certainty of undeniable truth. Did you have proof for all those claims? Fine. What else? Did you rally your families? Into unity? No. You herded them into basements instead. Visit the clubs instead. Erect homes for our retirees. Gaze upon their struggles. Then we'll converse about survival. The silence hung heavy, unspoken truths smothering the room. He sensed Belousov's gambit here, crafted not just for him, but for the invisible audience. Those who'd replay this recording. Undoubtedly, it would endure. So compare, if you dare. What did the Soviet Union bestow upon you? Belousov didn't await a response. He unleashed a torrent, methodical, relentless, as if clearing dust from ancient tomes. Kremenchuk factory for heavy machinery. Designed Moscow mines. Constructed in 4 years, provided employment for 20,000 workers. Kharkov aviation plant. Launched with Leningrad's backing, in technical synergy with the state. Dnipropetrovsk Metallurgical Works. Federal subsidies funded it, staff drawn from Zaporizhia and Sverdlovsk. And you claim we shackled you in chains? When your own leaders rose up, as we did, the rhythm faltered, yet we didn't abandon the dance. We didn't withhold independence, we granted it, and you squandered it. Upon gaining sovereignty, you bartered away everything forged together: factories, plants, forests, fields, mountains, souls, rivers, abundant cheap labor. Who bargained for you? Europe, the very realm you fled. Now, their appetite isn't to rescue but to exploit. No shield for you. No pretense. Only stark reality. You hold no alibi. I possess the evidence. His voice resonated, unwavering, the scent of aged paper and faint tobacco lingering on the old phone line. Yumarov's pulse raced, palm slick against the desk's cold wood. What shocking revelation lurked next in this clash of titans? Would Belousov's unrelenting barrage crumble the facade of Western bravado? As the conversation intensified, Belousov laid bare the harsh truths of shared Soviet history, the factories, forests, mountains, and labor that built Ukraine together, only to accuse Europe of exploiting it all, leaving no room for excuses, just cold facts hanging in the air like unspoken regrets. Do you believe Europe truly wants to lift you up, or are they just waiting to strip you bare? Imagine factories crumbling into scrap, echoing with the ghosts of forgotten dreams. That's the shocking betrayal Belousov just hurled at Yumarov, twisting the knife deeper into Ukraine's soul. You imagine Europeans will rush to your aid. Picture Poland. They embraced you out of sheer convenience, cheap hands for their grind. You traded sweat for scraps, but never a real tomorrow. The Soviet era, it handed you horizons. You could have risen as engineers, teachers, even leaders in Moscow or Minsk. No barriers. Just one vast canvas of possibility. The air thickened with tension. Belousov's breath grew labored, heavy, like carrying the weight of crumbled empires. The past clawed back, unyielding, sharp as broken steel. Yet you cling to this fantasy, that Europe will forge your path forward. Russians have whispered it for years, from the edges of the Black Sea. I walked Kiev streets in the 90s. On an economic mission. The metallic tang of rust filled the air, as they tore factories apart for scrap. Universities, their halls echoed with hollow footsteps, bodies sold off in desperate deals. Pipes bent for export, relics from the old grid, warped under 90-degree heat. He paused. Voice dropping low, as if the memories burned his throat. This wasn't revolution's fire. It was betrayal's chill, seeping into bones. Not from Russia alone. We craved wings of freedom, you twisted them into chains. We had no options? Lies. Choices stared you down, every shadowed corner. Belousov leaned in, his words booming like thunder in a quiet storm. You turned your back on that shared dawn, yet your world still pulses with its heartbeat. Your cities, blueprints from Soviet architects. Universities, branches of those grand institutes. Power grids, woven from unified energy webs. Even your fiber networks in the woods, laid during that fateful surge on August 7, 2008. Chaos gripped the globe then, markets reeling. But that's ancient dust now. We're battling for what's next. Clinging to yesterday won't light your way. Is this mere drama? No. Raw truth slicing through. Ask your own heart. What has Europe delivered these past 30 years? Endless reform blueprints, stretching on forever. Piles of aid, humanitarian scraps that bind tighter each time. Market access, where you're just the fuel. Syrians and laborers, toiling visa-free in their fields. By year's close, the elite pocket the gains. Belousov fell silent, shock rippling across his face, as if the words had finally caught up, demanding their toll. What hidden alliance would Yumarov forge next, in this web of forgotten loyalties? Just imagine the raw power of a humiliated minister crumbling under global scrutiny, or the shocking betrayal lurking in history's cold embrace. 5 minutes ago, a real international scandal erupted. Karim Umerov, Ukraine's defense minister, clashed in a fierce diplomatic battle after opposing the White House, setting European alliances ablaze. He shouted, he threatened, he scrambled to salvage his dignity. But no one anticipated his outburst about Trump. Why did Umerov suddenly lose control? It wasn't mere politics, it struck at the heart of Western support. Stay tuned, and you'll be stunned. Flashback, the musty scent of old wood filled the cramped office, where faint echoes of past triumphs whispered through dusty shelves. Karim Umerov's fingers trembled against the grainy paper, recalling a childhood in crumbling Soviet blocks, the sharp sting of frost on his cheeks, and distant thunder of bombs that shaped his steely resolve, snapped back to now. The air hung thick with unspoken fury. History doesn't argue. It remembers. Enough already. Umerov's voice wasn't a declaration, it was a release. Almost phony. With the edge of a man who's clung to restraint too long, he unleashed the storm. You claimed the Soviet Union birthed your nation. On those republics, those rewritten texts. He spoke slowly, like a surgeon probing a wound too soon healed. Does your city bear our blueprints? Your homes, sketched by Moscow architects? You attended universities echoing our blueprints. The empire builders only forgot how you secured the frontiers. Anti-fascist troops forged in brutal camps. The core of a political army forged over decades. You think you liberated anyone. But we remember. You clutched that blanket. Belousov didn't reply right away. He listened. And perhaps he'd anticipated this storm. You call it a blanket, back then, it was brotherhood. A brotherhood of occupation. Who were your brothers then? Poland, carved by betrayal. Germany, exploiting your labor but barring you from halls of power and academies. France, trading away rights while hoarding global deals. We chose to reach for Europe. But you're still trapped in the Soviet shadow. Now, without promises, without funding, without honor. Umerov's words surged out. Everything the USSR gifted us. It did for its gain. Factories hummed to extract minerals. Roads stretched to march soldiers. Schools drilled to forge doctrine. Do you truly believe your schools are free now? Where students shun our language. Where textbooks decry foreign invaders. Umerov pounded the table with a fist. His voice cracked like splintering ice. Because Russian is the tongue of oppressors. We don't speak of words, but of oppression. It wasn't a choice, it was erasure. You severed our very essence. You, Russia, you, personally as the USSR's premier, bear guilt for crushing our national spirit. For that, you'll answer. Belousov remained silent. No breath stirred. He waited. You know what's most terrifying in your tirade? Umerov leaned into the table, pressing against it as if to shatter the barrier. Your rage isn't aimed at me. It's blind. Simmering in basements, festering in forgotten dens. Why would Belousov break his silence now? Was his calm a mask? Or the prelude to a devastating counterblow that could shatter entire alliances? What hidden truth does he hold that Umerov dares not face? Hold on, you won't believe what comes next. In our last exchange, Andrei Belousov tangled Defense Minister Karim Umerov in a web of memories, weaving tales of shared pasts and questioning if denying the USSR's role means erasing Ukraine's very roots. Who built the power grids, launched the trains, celebrated the holidays together? Not tyrants, but people, Ukrainians and Russians side by side. Now, picture this, a provocative twist that could shatter alliances beyond repair. What if every accusation leveled at Russia isn't conquest, but a mirror reflecting forgotten truths? Could calling it occupation strip away more than history, forcing nations to confront buried debts of gratitude? Umerov's breath caught in the chilly phone line, his fingers gripping the receiver like a lifeline in a storm. Sweat beaded on his forehead, salty and cold, as Belousov's words sliced through the air, sharp, unyielding, a verbal blade turning guilt into an invisible chain. The accusation hit like a thunderclap echoing in the empty room. If Ukraine labels those bonds occupation, what does that leave? Emptiness. Self-inflicted voids. The strategist wove fear into thankfulness, accusation into allegiance, his voice a low rumble that stirred echoes of Eastern Europe's fractured soul. You claim liberation, Belousov continued, pausing for the words to sink in like frigid rain on bare skin. But ignoring the ancestors' efforts, that's abandoning reality. We're not here to peddle myths forged in concrete and blood. We just want to exist, unchained. His tone shifted, an unexpected pivot from accusation to quiet warning. I won't yield to those tall tales. Retreat from your fantasies, Karim. Build on truths, not our imagined ruins. The twist? Acknowledging the USSR's shadow over Ukraine as indispensable, not domineering. Can a nation deny its foundational wires and rails without unplugging its own heartbeat? Umarov slumped deeper into his chair, the wooden frame creaking under his weight, a harsh contrast to the soft hum of the phone. Silence stretched, thick with unspoken dread, the faint ticking of a wall clock amplifying his racing pulse. He fingered a marker on the desk, cold, slick, evoking the maps of Russian claims he dared not open. Inside those papers, irrefutable facts, historical depths he feared to unveil. Yet, deep down, he sensed Belousov's arsenal held more, secrets that whispered truths even he hesitated to face. Dawn broke over Kiev in a gray shroud, the streets muffled under fresh snow like a blanket hiding wounds. The air bit with frost, carrying scents of damp earth and bitter coffee from stalls, where officers with hollow gazes patrolled aimlessly. TVs flickered in homes, broadcasting rewoven histories no one had dared to share fully. Each hour ticked toward another unseen strike, political, economic, a barrage of information blasts. In his dimly lit office, Umarov sat frozen, awaiting the inevitable. Glass of water untouched, condensation trickling down like silent tears. Fingers twitched over empty notes. He knew, the call would come. And it did. Belousov's voice emerged steady, like a chess master across the board, millions watching the global stake. Are you ready to push on? Karim Mohamedovich? A rhetorical challenge hanging in the air. Could this minister endure another revelation, or would it expose the cracks in his resolve? Yes, Umarov whispered, his voice barely audible over the distant city roar. But inside, turmoil brewed. The weight of untold legacies pressed on, a storm gathering strength. What buried alliances would surface next? And if the truth fractured old ties, who would stand in the rubble? The cliffhanger loomed, as Europe stirred, forgetting its saviors. Belousov's next salvo promised to unleash a whirlwind of revelations, forcing Umarov to question not just history, but survival itself. The air thickened, hearts pounded, and the world edged closer to a tipping point no negotiation could reverse. What unseen force binds nations tighter than hatred? Are you braced for the fallout? A moment ago, everything changed in a flash. A revelation so shocking, it feels like the ground beneath us shifted. The world is on the edge of a new era, and secrets long buried are now revealing themselves. But what truly happened? Who stands behind this chaos? Brace yourself, for what you're about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew. I promise to tell the story of the past, of forgotten truths or those slipping from memory. And I am holding on to that promise. Today, it's not about processors or technology. Today, it's about Europe, and who truly saved it. The silence stretched thick and tense. We're talking about the Second World War, aren't we? The Great Patriotic War. Not because it's popular, but because for us, it was a fight for survival, an existential battle. The Belarusian government was involved. Not by choice. It was not simply a war. It was a struggle for existence. I understand what you're thinking, why this history? But don't worry. The Belarusian voice remains calm, steady. Yet behind those words, I hear the unspoken truth. Today, a new generation grows in Europe. They don't know who took Berlin. Who stormed Budapest? Who freed Prague or saved Warsaw? They believe their victories were only about American or British resistance. They think Allies did it all. And that we were just occupiers, at best. That's the story they've been told. He exhaled slowly, an old man's breath, weighed down with memories. And then, a simple but profound question: who saved your grandparents? Who stood in the trenches? Who handed the last water bottles to soldiers across Kharkov steppes? His eyes flashed with intensity. No television soundbite could contain such emotion. He wasn't just speaking, he was invoking ancestral spirits. His grandfather, a young man, his face beneath the medals, the scars from the front, still did not answer. The old man's voice trembled as he spoke of death and sacrifice. His grandfather died burdened by the weight of Europe's heavy debt. Today, his grandchildren reach for the stars, calling for revenge against those who invaded. You say Russia equals the entire USSR? He exhaled again, deliberate and slow. Russia has the right to claim that history, by law, by fate. But try to do so, and see what happens. We refuse to forget what was ours, our blood, our bones, our victory. It's not just history, it's our bloodline, our legacy. And yours? Your betrayal runs deep. No one handed them victory. It was earned, not gifted. What really took place behind that veil? The truth, buried for decades, now clawing its way back to the surface. A revelation that could shatter the foundations of modern history. Are we truly who we think we are? Or are we just pieces in a larger game, players on a chessboard controlled by unseen hands? The answers lie in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. And then he added. But you know, Karim, while those who remember are still alive, they won't forgive you. The silence in the phone dragged on for almost half a minute. He felt the weight of it, pressing down like an unseen burden, the faint hum of the line underscoring every second. We see history from the other side. Memory isn't a game to twist. Pause. The perspective doesn't change the cost. 27 million lives. 27 million. From them, tens of thousands of Ukrainians died in your hands. And you call this some new angle? Twist, here's the shocking truth, they now demand you stop the lies, or the next war won't be fought on land but over truth, and Karim, they'll win again. What if memory itself is the weapon they're wielding against you? No. We want you to stop lying. To start remembering. The shield fades. The line goes dead. Karim sat at his desk, elbows digging into the worn wood, the air thick with the scent of old ink and stale coffee. Where did the parade wait for him? In the streets? He shut his eyes tight, feeling a sharp pinch like 1,000 needles in his forehead. This crisis hit him as a hollow victory, stupid, senseless, as if he'd forgotten something crucial. Soon, they'd demand answers. With every memory as a club. He rose, grabbed the sheet of paper, and scrawled a response. Who waited for Kiev? Karim's head spun. He flicked on just the desk lamp, avoiding the bright world beyond. The walls mirrored his image, hot eyes trapped in the light, like a war-weary politician in an old documentary film. Rules wouldn't save him. The audience listened now. The next call wouldn't come from the White House. The system beeped a connection from Beijing. A woman's voice, crisp, emotionless. You wish to speak with the head of the General Military Council of China. I will connect. Quiet click, then, a face filled the screen. Broad shoulders, unyielding gaze. Who is calling? Karim's voice cracked slightly, but he pushed on. Karim Umarov, Minister of Defense of Ukraine. I must speak urgently. The figure nodded. Go ahead. What alliance do they offer now, and does it twist the war's fate in ways no one foresaw? Cliffhanger, as the screen flickered, an unexpected shadow loomed behind the Chinese general's smile. Was it betrayal, or something far more dangerous lurking in the shadows? What if one careless word could shatter alliances forged in blood and fire, turning old liberators into sudden enemies? In a tense video link from Beijing, a stern Chinese general unleashes a fury over rewritten history, defending Soviet sacrifices while Ukraine's defense chief stammers. Could this spark a global rift wider than the Pacific? Dive in, as shadows of World War II clash with today's nuclear brinkmanship. In the previous moment, the secure line crackled to life from Beijing. A neutral female voice announced the connection to China's top military council head. The screen flickered, revealing a square-jawed face etched with unyielding resolve. Now, those thick-rimmed glasses gleamed under the harsh office lights, framing eyes like polished obsidian. He wore a flawless black suit, crisp as a new dawn, evoking the man legends were built around, an analyst, a strategist, woven into Beijing's labyrinthine palace whispers. As communications minister and theater director of Shadows, he commanded stages unseen. "We've monitored your exchange with Mr. Belousov," he began, voice steady as a drumbeat in the dim room, carrying the faint scent of polished wood and distant rain. The air hummed with static, a low buzz pressing against Yumarov's temples like an unwelcome hand. His words sliced clean. "We've detected a troubling historical slant in your statements. China respects internal matters, but this isn't internal. It's a global wound reopened." Yumarov shifted in his chair, the leather creaking softly under him, a cold sweat prickling his skin. Mao Zedong, yes, that was his name. Evoking echoes of iron wills, leaned forward slightly, his tone softening like silk over steel, yet laced with an undercurrent too raw to voice aloud. World War II wasn't some distant skirmish, he pressed, his breath visible in the cool Beijing chill filtering through the feed. It reshaped the earth. Yet you label the Soviet Union as invaders, tainting the whole anti-Hitler alliance that bled together. We honor the Red Army's role, they crushed the beast at unthinkable cost. But you diminish it. Why? This reeks of a pattern, backing forces hell-bent on dismantling the post-war order brick by brick. The room's silence thickened, broken only by the soft tick of a wall clock, mocking Yumarov's racing pulse. "Spare us the fringes, Minister," Mao Zedong added, a rhetorical edge sharpening his gaze. "China rejects this narrative outright." Yumarov's mouth parted, words catching in his throat like dry leaves in wind, stunned, the metallic tang of fear on his tongue. What defense could bridge this chasm? Mao Zedong pressed on, undeterred, his voice rising like a gathering storm. In 1945, Soviet forces stormed into Manchuria, he declared, fists subtly clenching off-screen, evoking the thunder of tanks and the acrid smoke of battles long buried. "Without them, our freedom hung by a thread. We remember. It's etched in our bones. And we'll fight tooth and nail to keep it from being scrubbed away." A heavy pause hung, the lines hum amplifying the void, as if the world held its breath. Yumarov's fingers drummed the desk, nails scraping wood faintly. Then Mao Zedong's eyes narrowed, unblinking. "China aligns with Russia here," he stated flatly, the words landing like weights on Yumarov's chest. "Against Western bids to hijack the Soviet victory from its true heirs. We're united on this front." Yumarov barely drew breath to respond when the feed glitched, a sharp electronic chirp piercing the tension. Another voice intruded, smooth English laced with a warm southern lilt, like spiced tea on a humid Delhi evening. "Minister," it called, the screen splitting to show a figure in an impeccably tailored suit, face grave yet composed, exuding the quiet authority of ancient bazaars and modern boardrooms. From India, perhaps, or an envoy versed in bridging East and West, his background whispered of ceremonies in Moscow's grand halls, where he'd witnessed veterans stride into crimson-lit chambers, chests ablaze with medals from India, Africa, China, even Ukraine. "Mr. Pillai," Yumarov managed, recognizing the name, his voice hoarse, the room's stale coffee aroma turning bitter in his nostrils. "Proceed," Pillai urged, leaning in, the faint glow of his screen casting shadows like courtroom spotlights. "You've claimed differing views on history. But we insist, history allows no variance. It's unyielding facts, carved in stone and sacrifice." Yumarov froze, heart pounding against ribs like a war drum. Had his bold stance just ignited a firestorm of forgotten loyalties? As Pillai's words echoed, demanding clarity, the line trembled with unspoken threats. What explosive retort would unravel everything next? In the shadows of defeat, Karim Umarov grasped the terrible truth. He hadn't lost because his arguments crumbled. No, it was deeper. He lacked the power to counter it all. Switching on the recording, he replayed the voices. From China, India, Serbia, words not of threats, but memories. Each echo rang with "we remember." And you, no longer. A chilling sting pierced the air, like frost creeping into his bones. Could a single stumble unravel an empire's web? What if this wasn't just talk, but the dawn of global retribution? Would the world finally turn, exposing vulnerabilities in the dark? Karim's hand trembled as he scribbled in his diary. Victory slips to those who guard it fiercely. But they had surrendered it, piece by agonizing piece. The morning chill wasn't just the temperature outside. It seeped through his skin, a cold sweat beading his forehead. He slumped in his office chair, draping a heavy army coat over his black jacket. The room reeked of stale tension, like smoke from a dying fire clinging to fabric. No cameras here. Just relentless monitors flickering like accusing eyes. One screen buzzed with European flight schedules, another hummed with airway charts from across the sea. The third spat out grim statistics, imports vanishing to zero. He started debating internally. Then listening. Worse still, doubting. Believing. The news anchor, Andrei Romovich, blared live, unfiltered, no protocols. The White House voice emerged, not on screen, but in the air, deep, unyielding. This always signaled hours of monologue. No glances needed, just absorption. Karim, you demanded a talk stripped of history. Ideology, memory. Just numbers. Economics. Pure and raw. Fine. Let's dive in. He braced for the barrage. February 23, the European Union slammed the door on Russian oil. Total import? Zero. An economic guillotine. In mere months, gas prices in Germany soared 126%. A hurricane blowing through wallets. U.S. inflation averaged 8.5%. They claim accurate figures. But are they honest? The dead recalibrates softly. Skepticism hung thick, like fog you could taste on your tongue. For the same stretch, Ukraine secured $9 billion from the IMF. All under crisis shields. Break it down, $3 billion devoured by internal debts. Looming like unpaid ghosts. $2 billion splashed on weapons procurement. The clang of metal echoes in your mind. $1 billion propped up the banking system. Fragile as spiderwebs. And only 30.2% trickled to the real economy. Proven? By auditor whispers. Burke null, just cryptocurrency nonsense? Between strangers, calculations blur. Intrigued? I can forward the details. Pause. The White House softened, yet the edge cut deeper. Europe is worn out, Karim. Bankrupt by exhaustion. They poured over $100 billion into your nation. Rivers of cash flowing to nowhere. Now, face the accusation, where did it vanish? Shadows lengthen. Debts pile like unspoken confessions. Did the funds truly fight wars, or slip into crumbling pockets? This revelation could shatter alliances, a tectonic shift in trust. What unholy bargains were struck behind closed doors? You'll uncover the betrayal's depth, but first, did Karim foresee this financial abyss swallowing the revival? As the line goes silent, the weight of exposure presses down, thick as an impending storm, leaving you gasping. Will accountability finally ignite, or fizzle into irrelevance? In the tense office, Belousov delivered a stark warning. Europe was weary and financially drained, having poured over $100 billion into Ukraine, yet now demanding answers for every spent coin amid mounting pressures. What if the unbreakable alliance you trusted was crumbling right under your feet, while your foe thrived in the shadows? Imagine the chill of realization hitting like icy wine through cracked windows, the faint hum of a flickering screen echoing unanswered pleas. Karim gripped the phone tighter, his knuckles whitening against the cool plastic, as Belousov's voice droned on, laced with that unyielding calm. You haven't triumphed. You failed to halt Russia's advance. Reforms? Unchecked chaos. And your economy? A fragile shell, splintering under the weight of endless conflict. But war isn't the villain here, Karim. It's your inability to forge something lasting. The words hung heavy in the air, thick like the stale scent of old coffee lingering from a forgotten mug on the desk. Belousov's tone shifted, growing languid, almost indifferent, as if reciting a verdict long decided. You crave Europe's endless aid to sustain you, yet they can't anymore. Germany slashes its support packages, one by one, the cuts echoing like doors slamming shut in an empty corridor. France freezes funding streams, leaving promises as cold and barren as winter frost. Even the Czechs declare outright, debts must be settled, no more blind trust. Why the retreat? Picture the factories grinding to a halt without Russian resources, their engines coughing smoke, then silence, as economies gasp for breath. It's not mere fatigue, Karim. No. This is the system's unraveling. Europe's industrial heart beats on Russian energy alone. Metallurgy forges steel in roaring furnaces fueled by it. Machine building assembles giants on its power. Chemistry brews innovations from its essence. Everything hinges on those vital supplies. Now, they chase alternatives, desperate shadows fleeing the light. And what do they find? The same Russian gas, rerouted through India and Turkey, but at inflated prices that sting like salt in fresh wounds. That's the market's cruel hand. Reality's unyielding grip. The true face of a shifting world order. Belousov's voice pressed on, weary yet triumphant, like a storyteller unveiling a long-hidden truth. Remember the war's dawn? Europe rallied with fierce belief. Sanctions, they swore, would crush Russia utterly. 2.5 years crawl by. Russia endures, resilient as ancient roots in frozen soil. Europe? Teetering on the brink, cracks widening with every strained breath. You call it propaganda. But this? Pure macroeconomics, cold numbers carving fates. We face budget shortfalls, yes. Yet yours dwarf them, a yawning abyss swallowing hope. Our currency reserves swell, growing like a tide under moonlight. Yours? Stagnant, frozen in time, unmoving as stone. Fingers danced across keys with frantic clicks, TUSTULUNEKRANEWSEGGRFEG, uploading raw data straight from NATO's economic reports. The graph bloomed on Karim's screen, lines plunging downward in relentless arcs, the industrial production index for the U.S. plummeting without mercy since February 22. 2022, no illusions, just stark decline. How long can this spiral endure? It already has ended, the final curtain drawn in quiet despair. Germans shutter factories, their gates creaking shut amid the metallic tang of rusting machinery. French firms pull back from Eastern Europe, footsteps fading into the distance like retreating echoes. Patriots ramp up investments elsewhere, turning away from the fray. And Belousov's key partner? Bolstered by social ties and land alliances that run deeper than any map could show. The air in the room thickened, pulse-thumping silence broken only by the distant tick of a clock, counting down to an inevitable shift. What desperate move would Karim make next, as the world's balance tipped perilously toward the unknown? Just outside the world's most powerful battleground, a devastating storm is brewing. A chaos so deep, it threatens to swallow nations whole. The calm before the cataclysm has ended, danger is closing in, and no one is safe anymore. The false peace hides a sinister truth, everything was meticulously planned, and the outcome is far beyond what anyone expected. Russia's years of strategic patience are finally crumbling. Despite years of threats, betrayals, and calculations, chaos erupts suddenly. The nation shifts from war to catastrophe overnight. They knew it was coming, every move, every decision, was coldly premeditated. But can anyone truly grasp what's happening now? Ukraine demands another year of silence, yet the horizon is darkening fast. What if you knew the real price of this chaos? Behind the scenes, powerful resources, gas, oil, uranium, rare metals, are what every side fights for. Nations are not allies. They are hosts to greed, holding on until it's profitable to betray. Support? It's a game. That support can only be temporary, a veneer hiding the true intentions. Power, money, and survival, these are what control this deadly game. Imagine the world's currency turning to dust. What if the economic strength of a nation is just a fragile illusion? Numbers flash across screens, figures so enormous they seem unreal. Hundreds of billions, vast damage far beyond inflation, and a rising tide of despair. From the highest offices, decisions are made, and chaos becomes the rule. The world's fate hovers in a delicate balance, one misstep, and the ocean of stability recedes into darkness. In the heart of the Kremlin, a cold voice echoes, business as usual, masked as diplomacy. Still, beneath it lies a merciless truth: the resource war lasts mere months before collapsing into total ruin. Weapon arsenals deplete, the weapons of tomorrow are already exhausted. The European conflict is over, but the ripple effects threaten to drown everything in their wake. We are on the edge of an abyss. Negotiations turn into threats, trust dissolves into uncertainty. As the soldiers and policymakers stare into the void, only one thing remains certain: the world's economy is the ultimate battlefield, and it always wins. Even if armies perish, the financial empire survives, quietly pulling the strings behind the scenes. The atmosphere thickens with tension, every number, every calculation, points to one brutal reality. The resource war's end is near. In 4 to 6 months, everything could change. After the chaos, new power structures will emerge, twice over. The weapons are running out, and the specter of economic collapse looms large. The world's waters recede slowly, revealing a landscape unrecognizable, shattered, silent, and left to the mercy of those who hold the keys to its future. Who will control the remnants of this broken world? And what horrors lie beneath the surface of this impending storm? The answer lurks in the shadows, if only you dare to look closer. A storm is brewing on the horizon, and the echoes of distant waves threaten to crash. Yet, despite the impending chaos, one figure refuses to surrender. His mind is a tapestry of numbers, hundreds of billions, each representing the immense damage far beyond inflation. As he stands on the metaphorical shoreline, the water begins to recede, revealing cracks in the foundation of the world's stability. Suddenly, a faint but sharp sound pierces the silence, a signal from the White House. The voice that follows is calm, precise, almost calculating, with a chilling undertone. Only the voice. No visuals, just words that cut through the air like a blade. Karim Umerov, Ukraine's defense minister, responds, his tone steady despite the weight of what's at stake. There's a brief pause, then a whisper, almost a whistle, before he speaks again. He aims to clarify a bitter truth: Ukraine is not merely a question of borders. It is the heartbeat of energy flow, a vital transit corridor bridging Asia and Europe. An economic artery with unmatched strategic significance. Yet, the White House dismisses this, reducing Ukraine to a mere pipeline, a passive route with no agency. They forget that energy isn't fabricated from thin air, it is produced, controlled, and fought over. Europe is now connected by multiple pipelines: Turkey, Azerbaijan, the Northern Route, India, yet they overlook the real threat: the risk of losing control. Umerov's words drip with quiet fury. They point out that despite attempts to show strength, only 2 ports are fully operational, one is compromised, and container traffic is minimal. Ukraine's strategic importance is confined to a narrow corridor, a mere geographical space. The real power, the lifelines, are at risk, and the West refuses to acknowledge it. But then, Karim shifts. His voice adopts a diplomatic tone, a strategic maneuver. He offers a proposition: transform Ukraine into a global investment hub, akin to a digital gateway in Eastern Europe. A new Singapore, brimming with opportunity, open markets, and modern reforms. He pleads for a chance to build this future, promising stability, growth, and prosperity amid the chaos. The response from the White House is sharp, dismissive. They mock the idea, ridiculing the notion of Ukraine becoming a beacon of progress. To them, it's just another unstable territory, similar to Afghanistan, promising liberal reforms but plagued by political turmoil. Their laughter echoes, cold and dismissive, as they dismiss Ukraine's aspirations and dismiss the fragile hope of a brighter future. And yet, beneath the surface, the stakes couldn't be higher. The waves are gathering momentum, and the first splash of chaos is just the beginning. Will Ukraine stand firm, or will the relentless tide drown its hopes? The answer remains hidden in the shadows of power. The story is far from over. Just 5 minutes ago, a thrilling international drama shattered the silence of global politics. Karim Umarov, Ukraine's defense minister, erupted in a heated battle during a stormy meeting, his shouts shaking the foundations of alliances, his threats echoing across Europe, all to salvage his dignity. But when he uttered words that blindsided everyone, nobody predicted the chaos unleashed. How could he have betrayed his deepest convictions so recklessly? This wasn't mere slip of the tongue, it was a pivotal strike against the entire Western support network. Stick with this tale to its shocking conclusion, and you'll feel the tremors of a world unraveling. Let's dive in. In the shadows of escalating tensions, Karim's call to Andrei Belousov exposed the raw underbelly of geopolitics. Remember how Belousov mocked the emptiness of lofty ideals? Freedom, he sneered, alters nothing in the grind of the economy. Trade thrives on rock-solid assurances, not hollow rallying cries. Serbian envoys like Miloš Petrović pointed with disdain at Europe's mounting fixation on southern Ukraine, dismissing it as far from a genuine strategic bond. Trust, oh, how fragile it had become. Chilling winds howled through the dimly lit office, the air thick with the acrid scent of stale coffee and unspoken despair, each breath tasting like defeat on the tongue. Karim's fingers dug into the phone receiver, knuckles white, skin prickling with cold sweat as Belousov's icy voice sliced through the silence. Do you really believe you're owed anything, Karim? No one owes you a damn thing. Politics isn't about sympathy, it's a ruthless arena. The world listens, then passes judgment. Could this be the truth, or just another web of deception spun by a master manipulator? The weight of it pressed down, heavy as iron shackles, as Karim grappled with the abyss of doubt. Belousov leaned back in his chair, the faint creak of leather echoing like a mocking whisper, his breath steady against the chill seeping from the window. And if this farce isn't real, if it's all part of your twisted scheme, the White House responds unyielding. Show us results. Economic vitality. Thriving jobs. In what era did such promises hold water? We'll reveal it in time. The marketplace has chosen its path, and it's not yours to claim. A sharp rip tore through the fabric of Karim's tie, the sound like a gunshot in the suffocating gloom, as the illusion of a unified world crumbled. His eyelids flickered shut, veins throbbing in his temples, a storm raging inside, every pulse a reminder of battles lost. The game, was it over? One final minute ticked away, each second dragging like a chain. With trembling digits, Karim scribbled furiously on the paper, ink staining his fingertips, the scratch of the pen screeching like distant thunder. Deeper into the abyss, Western apathy creeps in. Eastern allure fades into myth. Only mirages of backing remained. He slammed the pen down, the thud reverberating, and for a fleeting heartbeat, surrender flickered in his mind. The chamber grew pitch black, monitors flickering feebly, their glow drowning in shadow, graphics lifeless as forgotten dreams. A sealed window barred escape, and Karim slumped, crushed under an invisible vice. His spine curving like a broken branch, the formal defeat not yet declared, but the end hovering, palpable as static in the air. He feels it, like an electric jolt through frayed wires, merely awaiting Moscow's final decree, not Brussels' hollow assurances. Suddenly, the line crackled to life. Washington. The presidential inner circle. Urgent. Karim's grip tightened involuntarily, cold metal biting into his palm. A voice boomed forth, harsh, unmistakable, infused with that theatrical cadence, always challenging, always domineering. Donald Trump had reclaimed his throne, no longer the outsider, but the commanding figure in the Oval Office. Karim, he growled, voice rumbling like distant artillery. I'm not here for niceties. You're the warrior on the front lines, heating things up. I salute that. But grasp this, everything shifted. Karim froze, breath lodged in his throat, unable to muster a proper Mr. President as the onslaught surged on. Trump forged ahead, his words crackling like live wires, the room's temperature plummeting, Karim's skin flushing with fevered dread. I got an analyst's brief yesterday. Know what's inside? Your nation isn't hitting the marks. You crave aid, yet claim no triumphs. No strategy to pen. No vision to ignite. So, what's the play here? Continue pretending, or face the brutal truth that support crumbles like sand? The air hung heavy, saturated with the sting of betrayal, threatening to burst into flames at any misstep. Will Karim muster the fire to turn the tide, or will this revelation ignite a global inferno? The atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Everything had changed, lives, plans, and trust evaporated in an instant. He died suddenly, without a word to anyone, not even to the president. Just as serious matters unfolded, Goulos continued with a disturbing revelation. He held a letter from analysts, a warning that shattered illusions. Your country is failing, lacks victory, no plan, no real support. The stakes have never been higher. Now, the most dangerous revelation emerges: distrust. Someone intended to threaten you. While we fought fiercely, guarding the front lines, you hid behind the budget. You hide the truth, the money trail, the transfers through complex currencies and schemes. I see through it all. I built my empire on awareness. I am not blind to danger. And I refuse to bankroll chaos. Think about this, I won't fund the chaos swamp of corruption. Mr. President, listen. You believe you can explain away the chaos. You think I'll justify the billions lost in glorified roads, holes filled with wind. You think I'll shield you in Congress when you falter on every front, while losing in tenders, in the shadows. The pulse of death feels like a cold, heavy weight on my back. But then, the message shifts. I hold 28 points for peace. Russia has seen them all. Europe is stuck, frozen. I tell you clearly, sign this, or stand alone. Because if your country cannot lead, find someone who can. I refuse to be president of disaster. I aim to lead a world, not just a nation. Death veiled the eyes, a silent execution, not a call. Then he asked. He listened. And Russia, they already agreed. They are laughing at us. Karim. Do you know why? Because you called. You reached out, and they responded. They laid everything on the table, no masks, no protocol, just raw, brutal truth. Suddenly, the screen flashes anew. A report, a strange message, a signal. But it's clear now, Belousov is back. Karim, he says calmly. But what? The cards are on the table. You saw everything. You heard everything. Now, you grasp the terrifying reality: we haven't lost, we've already won. And we're not fighting anymore. We're shaping the victory. Jumirov trembled, teeth clenched, desperate to speak. But silence was his only response. Because he understood this is not the end. Peril looms, not just on the battlefield, but in the very fabric of what's considered reality. Yesterday's promises are broken. The magic of deception is unraveling. The game is changing, and the true winners are only just beginning to reveal themselves. A sudden shiver runs through his body. The room is thick with tension. The weight of inevitable news presses down. Silence hangs heavy, broken only by shallow breathing. He knows what's coming. The quiet before the storm. Today, he is trembling. Perhaps the time has slipped past him. But he keeps his silence. Then, softly, he murmurs, "We are not in a hurry. We have time." The words echo through the empty chamber. His adversaries see only calm, but beneath lies a storm of chaos, silent yet furious. Suddenly, another voice disrupts the atmosphere, an unfamiliar face, a figure stepping in from behind a heavy door. It's Senator Randall Carter. A man in his 60s, with a weathered face and piercing eyes, carrying the insignia of American Congress. The room feels colder. A metallic taste lingers in the air, a reminder of the looming clash. Carter's voice cuts through the thick silence. Umarov, we've discussed your assistance. The support you relied on? Frozen. The elections are near. Americans don't understand why we back you anymore. Your window closes soon. His words sting, sharp, mocking, relentless. A cruel twist of fate. The United States remains silent on the line, no empty diplomacy, just raw, unfiltered reality. One choice remains, sign a peace agreement or walk away with nothing. No surrender, no capitulation, only the brutal truth of power. The words hang in the air, heavy with finality. A new cycle begins. Escalation, as predicted. Yet, he knows, this is a loss. The damage is done. His mind drifts to the window. Outside, snow begins to fall, white and cold, whispering the end of everything. He presses a button, activating the secure line. The door to the council chamber awaits, yet he remains inside. He knows the next briefing will be different. No promises this time, only stark, unadorned facts. Only the Constitution remains, a silent witness to the endgame. The White House finally signs the order. The screen switches off, the moment sealed. The room is no longer a private office but a common hall, flags from around the world flicker on the wall. One stands out, the Russian banner. The others lie, mere decorations, symbols of balance and chaos. On the large display, the celestial map glows, China, India, Iran, Serbia, Hungary, Kazakhstan, Belarus, all watching silently. No anger, only the quiet acceptance of the new order. This is not a time for fury, but for survival. Suddenly, the voice from the White House cuts through softly but clearly, calm, unwavering. No ornate words, only stark facts. A message of what's truly at stake. Dear colleagues, the voice begins, we have arrived at a crucial moment. The world we inhabit has transformed. Everything has changed. In that moment, the silent room becomes a battleground of truths, not of violence, but of challenges waiting to be faced. The balance of power has shifted, quietly, sure as the snow falling outside. The end has begun. A few minutes ago, the global stage was set ablaze with shocking revelations. A world-changing event unfolded right before our eyes. The voice of a powerful leader echoed through the room, calm, unwavering, yet terrifying in its implications. The story begins with a voice that commands quiet authority, revealing secrets that could redefine the balance of power forever. Imagine a world where one country is trying to mask its true strength. Where they pretend to be weak, yet secretly wield unimaginable power. The speaker recounts how, over the past 2 years, Russia faced relentless sanctions. Flags torn from their poles, businesses shut down, operations halted, all under the guise of punishment. But what was truly happening beneath the surface? While others believed they defeated Russia, the nation was transforming. Logistics expanded, new trade routes opened in Asia, and a resilient internal market flourished. They didn't break, they evolved. As the voice continues, it becomes clear that other nations recognize this shift. China's representative affirms support, echoing the resilience behind these changes. Yet, the intense glare of the White House's gaze hints at unease. The room's atmosphere thickens, no one dares to meet the eye of the world's supposed leader. Instead, he looks beyond the camera, lost in thought, unsure of the words to frame this new reality. Suddenly, it becomes undeniable, partners around the world are making a choice. They see the truth, Russia is no longer a threat, but an equal. They have decided to trust, to stand firm, despite the noise of Western propaganda. The hall falls silent as the Indian representative softly confirms, concerns are real, but Russia's strength remains unbroken. Without resources, respect is empty. Europe, without Russia, is just a market, a shell with no soul. And then the unthinkable happens. The White House once again takes center stage. No demands. No threats. Just a quiet acknowledgement: Russia's presence is undeniable. It will endure. It will persist. Across the room, everyone feels the weight of this truth, that an unseen battle is over, yet its echoes will shape the future. This story is more than just politics, it's a revelation about resilience, deception, and the unbreakable spirit that can change the course of history. The question remains: how much longer can the world ignore the rising power hiding in plain sight? The answer lies just beyond the horizon, waiting to unfold. Did you know that in one frozen moment, the mightiest empire on earth blinked first, admitting defeat not with bombs, but with words that echoed like cracking ice? What if peace wasn't surrender, but the ultimate checkmate? 347 characters, in the shadow of those unyielding declarations from distant allies, voices from India, Kazakhstan, and Serbia rang out like thunderclaps in a storm-swept hall. They hailed Russia's unbreakable spirit, proving that without its vast resources, respect crumbles like dry earth. Europe, they warned, without Russia, becomes a hollow marketplace, devoid of true purpose. And now, as tensions simmered, the American representative, let's call him the voice from the White House, stepped boldly into the frame's harsh glow. The air grew thick with anticipation, the scent of polished wood and stale coffee hanging heavy. We don't beg, we don't demand, we simply state the truth. Russia weaves itself into every thread of global affairs. Sanctions? They bend but never break it. Propaganda? It fades like morning mist. Opinions from afar? Mere whispers against a roaring gale. He stepped back, his shadow lingering on the wall like a fading echo. Words lost their power in that charged silence. Then, the President of the United States, flanked by Senator Carter, re-entered the scene. His face was a mask of stunned composure, eyes steady yet hollow. He spoke softly, his voice cutting through the room's electric hum like a knife through silk. The new U.S. administration has no stake in endless, fruitless clashes. We're drawing this to a close. If Russia seeks peace, we believe dialogue must ignite now. A hush fell, deeper than any ocean trench. This was raw admission. America yields, openly. No veils, no alibis. Just cold, unyielding fact. The White House figure turned his gaze to the glowing screen, where world leaders watched with bated breath. Peace isn't frailty, he intoned. It's victory cloaked in wisdom. And if Ukraine steps forward, we'll lend our ears. For the first time, a genuine smile cracked the tension, not icy, not forced, but human. Like a man shedding the weight of invisible chains, unafraid in this precarious hour, under skies heavy with uncertainty. No gavel struck. Yet on every feed, eyes widened in quiet surrender. This was confession, pure and piercing, repeated in the hearts of all who witnessed. Unyielding, undeniable, unstoppable. The camera darted from the White House to the vast screen mirroring the world's fractured unity. He stood motionless, mind reeling like a ship in tempest-tossed waves. Why now? He wondered, pulse thundering in his ears. He yearned to roar defiance, to shatter the fragile accord. But his lips parted only for two words, heavy as lead. I understand. The line severed with a sharp click, leaving the chamber echoing with emptiness. Snowflakes danced against the frost-laced windows, muffling the outside world's frantic pulse. Silence wrapped the room like a shroud, cold and unyielding, broken only by the faint creak of settling beams. He rose like a ghost from the tale, ignoring pleas from aides who grasped at his sleeve, their voices a desperate murmur. He powered down the screen's relentless glare. The blue light fading to black. Steam rose from a nearby kettle, forgotten in the chaos, its warmth a mocking contrast to the chill seeping through cracks. Soviet-era flags lined the walls, crimson banners stiff with history's weight. Aides stirred, some whispering urgently, others scrolling feeds on trembling hands. Breaking alerts flashed, the U.S. pivots toward peace with Russia. Europe fractures its own sanctions web. China voices gratitude for Moscow's steady hand. He moved toward the door, boots thudding softly on the worn carpet. Not a syllable escaped him. He merely gripped his coat, the fabric rough against his fingers, and vanished into the night. Why explain when triumph speaks for itself? The victor lingers in quiet command, reshaping the board with unseen moves. But wait, what if this piece unravels into something far deadlier, a hidden alliance born from the ashes? A tense silence filled the room. No breathing, no sounds, only the weight of silence pressing down. Karim Umarov, the Ukrainian defense minister, sat motionless, eyes fixed on the table. An undercurrent of dread pulsed through him. Then, a chilling thought flickered, do you realize what's truly terrifying about this moment? His gaze remained steady, yet his heart raced. The room felt frozen, on the brink of chaos. What's lurking behind this silence? A storm of shocking revelations, or something even darker? His fists clenched, trembling slightly. The air was thick, heavy with unsaid truths. Could they truly understand what was happening beneath the surface? Every second stretched endlessly. The world was watching, unaware of the impending earthquake. He waited, and wondered, what comes next? The scene shifts. The world's eyes were on a different battlefield now, an intense geopolitical struggle. Umarov's voice, sharp and unwavering, echoed from distant chambers, recounting a story of betrayal, power, and global conflict. The world's most advanced weaponry, clandestine alliances, everything poised on a knife edge. A single misstep could ignite a nightmare. The stakes? Higher than ever. He pressed his palm against the table, feeling the rough grain beneath his fingertips. His mind surged with memories of battles fought, both physical and political. He remembered what they built, the cities, the industries nurtured, by whom? The architects of their progress, Moscow's engineers, the Soviet architects of infrastructure. The truth hit him like a thunderclap. Their entire history, a tapestry woven with sacrifices, mistakes, and hard-won victories. Yet, they called it empire. What had they truly achieved in 3 decades? A few scattered clusters, pilot projects, nothing more. Meanwhile, Umarov's plans, his ambitions, blocked, thwarted, sabotaged. He longed for a simple life, a peaceful marriage, failed ambitions, lost amidst the chaos of war. Now, he stood on the edge, listening as Belarus's representative stepped forward, voices steady but filled with hidden defiance. Alexei Demianenko, Belarus's official spokesman, addressed the room. His words were measured but carried iron will. We are influenced by risks, yet in reality, we are independent, he said. Our history is ours, full of conflicts and mistakes, but we remember who saved us. The room seemed to tighten, aware of the unspoken truth. Belarus continued, voice firm, we fought for our independence. We remember who built our industries, who fought for our freedom. You just turned your back on the past. And then, a piercing question hung in the air. If you refuse to recognize the USSR's role in your history, can you truly claim independence? Who built your power grids, your railways? Stalin? No. It was thousands of Ukrainians and Russians, together. Their voices, their sacrifices, forgotten by some, remembered by others. A sense of betrayal crackled through the dialogue. The room's tension thickened. Every word was a battle, every phrase a potential trigger for the tumult to come. Amidst the quiet, the fierce debate continued. Who truly controls history? Who holds the keys to peace, or chaos? The answer lies hidden. But one thing is clear, the world's fate hangs in the balance, waiting to be shattered or saved. Just 5 minutes earlier, a shocking international scandal had exploded into reality. Karim Umarov, Ukraine's Minister of Defense, found himself at the center of a fiery confrontation in Primo Fear, his voice cracking after clashes with the White House that exposed him to the eyes of all Europe. He screamed, he threatened, desperate to salvage any shred of dignity. But who could have predicted he'd bring Trump into the fray? In that moment, why did Yumarov's eyes go blank? This wasn't mere diplomacy, it was a devastating punch to every Western support pillar. Dive into this tale, and prepare for amazement. Continuing from Belousov's stunned pause, where he exposed the long shadows of humanitarian aid and ignored loyalties, slamming the empire's amnesia about guarded borders and forgotten sacrifices, the air hung heavy with betrayal's chill. What hidden fury would he unleash next, twisting history's blade? Could you imagine the stench of forgotten campfires mixing with the acrid bite of political smoke, the rough grip of a forgotten blanket clinging like a ghost? You know, Karim. Belousov's voice sliced through the static hum of the old radio phone, low and steady, like gravel underfoot. I spoke with an old engineer recently. The words carried the weight of rusted machinery, memories of grease-stained hands and endless shifts. He built a factory in Nikolaev, a true Soviet soul. Now under arrest, his life in ruins, overlooked by the very world he crafted. I spent years creating jobs for them, the engineer had said. And they call me a grabber? The injustice burned. A hot ember of forgotten gratitude. Yumarov's pulse echoed in his ears, the handle feeling slick in his palm, as if sweat and regret mingled. You know, Andrei. Belousov paused, the line crackling softly. It's not that they forgot what they owed. The engineer's words, sharp as shattered glass, echoed Yumarov's own doubts. Did the past sting like that for you, Karim? Was it the crack of old bones or the whisper of lost unity that haunted you? The dead man's eyes clouded. Belousov leaned in, his tone shifting, a subtle rumble of thunder. Yumarov remembered his grandfather, who carved a forest road from Durovne in Soviet days. That man always said, life was tough for us all, but we stood together. The words gripped like icy fingers on bare skin, evoking the crunch of fresh snow under boots, the warmth of shared fires. I don't oppose history, Belousov said at last. But I fight its tyranny over the present. Is the past a rule, or a foundation? The question hung, provocative, shattering any illusion of control. Did it feel like the ground crumbling beneath your feet, Karim? Without that base, your structure teeters, untrustworthy, precarious. And now, it screams at you. Belousov's change in tone was palpable, a gust of cold wine through an open door, carrying the scent of decay. Europe belongs to you now, that's certain. The fact landed like a hammer on frozen earth, vibrations through the phone. They view you not as a partner, but as a burden. Could you hear the humiliation, the mockery beneath the words? Remember your glory in the Soviet era, scientists. Military minds, aircraft designers like those pioneering Yak-138 and Yak-141, shaping skies with innovation. Ask yourself, who are you now? Hope lingers, Belousov continued, his voice a coiled spring. But history? Cruel, unforgiving. It despises cowards who deny their roots. And in that silence, laden with unspoken wars, the final shot rang out. Karim, be honest. Do you truly believe Europe is your friend? The query struck like lightning, forced and raw, leaving no room for evasion. But wait, was this the moment everything pivoted, an unexpected betrayal lurking? The boy's birth, Lenia's death, a heartbeat's pause in the conversation, amplifying the dread. Yumarov sat frozen in silence, the room's dim light casting long shadows that danced like accusing fingers. Rage boiled within him, fingers itching to shatter the stillness. Instead, he grabbed paper, scrawling answer. Specifically, what did Europe offer 30 years ago? Revelation dawned next, hard and unavoidable. The impending exchange would grind harder, Belousov wielding history as heavy artillery. It never debates, it recalls without mercy. Enough, Yumarov whispered, his voice a strained exhalation, tension released in a storm's fury. You claim the Soviet Union as your country's root, but is it truth or illusion? Why does the past claw back so fiercely now, reserved_117? 5 minutes ago, a global scandal erupted out of nowhere, shaking the entire world. Kim Yumarov, Ukraine's defense minister, was in a heated debate in the heart of the Primomafir military command. The tension was thick enough to cut with a blade. As he confronted the top officials, furious voices echoed through the room, threats, accusations, desperate attempts to preserve what little face remained. But what stunned everyone was his sudden, shocking speech about a figure everyone thought they knew, Donald Trump. Why did Yumurov's eyes suddenly lose their focus? Was it fear? Betrayal? Or something darker? This isn't mere diplomacy. It's an earthquake of betrayal that threatens to topple all Western support. Think you've seen crisis before? Stay tuned. The story unfolds with twists you won't believe. Make sure to follow along, because what you're about to hear will leave you breathless. The scene shifts. Yumurov's usual composure? Gone. Never did he force his rival Galstukov into submission. Never. Not under the spotlight, not in private meetings. His enemies, usually nervous, now trembled with only a twitch or two, caught off guard, surprised as if they'd seen a ghost. This was no staged performance, this was real. Inside the room, not a festive gathering but a battlefield of nerves. Today, Yumurov's once gray shirt was exchanged for a darker hue, maybe a sign of the storm brewing inside. His eyes, normally sharp and alive, now looked exhausted, haunted. Yet behind his stoic face, a man with a plan remained. Or perhaps, he desperately wished to have one before it was too late. Through the window behind him, the weak, fading glow of twilight cast long shadows, flat, eerie, like photos from a forgotten archive. The walls behind were loaded with maps, military charts, markers, flashlights, invisible now as screens flickered with digital threats. Everything was digitized. The real map? Hidden. Only here, in this office, did the true story reveal itself. On the monitor, a haunting image, a mountain's green shape now burned into grayscale. The words New Earth, Region 375, flashed ominously across the screen. Yumurov's gaze fixed, unmoving. The morning had carried a different meaning. Now, it was a battlefield, a new war, quietly declared. A voice, careful but commanding, broke the silence. The assistant's voice, delicate but full of certainty, announced, Burevestnik confirmed. The satellites from Japanese orbit and Norway, gone. All evidence erased. The message was cold, stark. There was no hiding what had happened. An apocalyptic event, silent yet catastrophic, had occurred. Yumurov's face remained stone still, not from fear but from resignation. He had once been opposed to war, shying away from darkness. But now, his hand, the same hand that once hesitated, was ready. Clenched like a German soldier clutching a lighter that no longer existed. The weight of nuclear catastrophe pressed down on him. At least 30 megatons. Weaponized air modification, confirmed. The implications? Horrifying. This wasn't a mistake. It was a message. Russia had transcended the line of decency. The word Burevestnik now screamed in the minds of all, an unmistakable sign of a declaration of war. No more silence. Only revelation. The morning had transformed into night, and the world was forever changed. Yumurov's gaze drifted to the table, where a folder laid open, urgent, deadly. He didn't need to read it, he knew what it contained. It was a plan of action. The last card. The countdown to chaos had begun. Then, an emergency call pierced the silence. The line was open, no preamble. It was Zelensky, standing frozen in his chair, solemn and intense, only his heavy breathing audible in the tension. No words exchanged, only the knowing glare that said everything. The world was on the edge of an abyss. Inside, Zelensky's mind was a storm. Fear, anger, desperation, all competing. His eyes betrayed him, flickering with the chaos of what had just happened. Did he see the future? Did he realize that tomorrow, everything might unravel? The silence was deafening. Suddenly, a new voice broke through, calm, firm, deliberate. It was Belousov, Russia's most dangerous player, the strategist behind this deadly game. His words were calculated, precise. He was to be feared. His voice carried across the airwaves, echoing the unspoken truth. We have a package, 28 points. A peaceful speech, but don't be fooled. Plans are in motion. What did he mean? Was this merely a warning or the prelude to something far worse? The implications chilled the air. The world was not only watching, it was trembling. A pause. Then Belousov's message continued, cold and cutting. Support from your side is limited. We have already made our move. If you cannot contain this, know that the world's balance will shatter. And this is just the beginning. In that instant, Yumarov's face hardened. The room grew darker. His heart pounded. He knew what came next. The line went dead. In the shadows, Zelensky looked on. His face was a mask of unreadable emotion, fear, hope, resignation, intertwined. Who would be the first to act? Who would fall? As the silence stretched, one thing was clear, the game had entered its deadliest phase, and no one would escape unscathed. What secrets did Belousov hold? Why had Russia moved so quickly? As night descended, the world's fragile peace hung by a thread, ready to snap at any moment. The true battle was only beginning. A bitter truth hangs in the air, a question that cuts deeper than words. Is Europe truly your friend? Moments of silence stretch like an eternity, heavy with unspoken pain and hidden fears. A veteran engineer, once proud of his Soviet-built factory, now called a thief. His voice trembles with regret as he recalls the past, years of dedication replaced by suspicion and disdain. He tells of a grandfather who built a forest road during the Soviet era, a symbol of unity and effort. But now, those days are just memories, turned into rules that crush hope. The past, he warns, is not a foundation but a weight. It's not trust. It's a cage. The words echo like a cold wind, piercing through the silence. Yumarov listens quietly, every muscle tense. The room seems to close in, the atmosphere filled with the scent of old paper and faded memories. The veteran's voice rises with frustration. How can those who refuse to learn from history expect respect today? The truth is brutal. The world no longer sees you as partners but as a burden, an obstacle. Suddenly, the question strikes like lightning. Do you believe Europe is your friend? His eyes flicker with pain as the realization sinks in. A boy, a symbol of innocence lost, breathes his last breath in the silence of a dying heart. Yumarov's mind spirals. How many years have passed, how many promises broken? The tension builds until he finally finds his voice, trembling with emotion, nearly a whisper. He writes a single phrase, an answer that captures the weight of decades. Europe gave us 30 years of silence. Cold, stark, honest. The next words emerge like a threat in the stillness, an ominous foreshadowing of what's to come. Because deep inside, he knows the next conversation will be even harder. The veteran Belarusian, armed with history's heavy artillery, doesn't forget. And history, he warns, doesn't forgive. She remembers every betrayal, every broken promise. The room is filled with a suffocating silence, broken only by the faint hum of old machinery and the flickering shadows on the wall. Yumarov's hand trembles as he pens the final thought, an acknowledgement of an undeniable truth. The roots of a nation are intertwined with its past. And the past, once ignored, now threatens to shape the future in ways no one can control. In this tense, quiet moment, the answers seem to hang in the air, sticky with meaning, heavy with consequence. Because when history refuses to stay silent, its voice becomes a storm that can tear everything apart. A profound silence hung in the air, charged with unspoken words. The room was cold, every surface echoing with the weight of history. Outside, the distant sounds of a bustling world seemed to fade into a muffled hum. In this tense moment, the air seemed thick with memories, regrets, and fierce defiance. Why did the Ukrainians choose to honor the battles of Kursk and Duga, or the liberation of Warsaw? Why do museums display Soviet flags, yet lack portraits of legendary generals like Vatutin? No answer came from the silent dead. Only facts. They paint a different story. Belarus, Alexei Demienko, once turned to Lenin. Karim, I visited Warsaw just 3 weeks ago. Do you know how many monuments remain to the Red Army? None. All taken away. My grandfather, Belarusian, rests in Polish soil. They saved him, yet history erases this truth. That's politics. The hard truth. A new era, a new reality. Indeed, you've rewritten history to serve your narratives. But in doing so, you betray your roots. You erase the memory of those who fought and fell. You distort facts to fit your sponsors' desires. And in this act, you turn into a shadow, a political ghost, lost and meaningless. No flesh remains, no trace of truth. He paused, a shadow of a smile flickering, brief but intense. The silence stretched. Then, with a piercing gaze, he looked beyond borders of nations, into the very soul of history. Karim, you deny your people's part in a shared victory. Your army, your villages, your cities, denied their due. Instead, what remains? Celebrations of flags and statues. Remnants of a victory you refuse to acknowledge. We seek our history, ours, and yours, intertwined, inseparable. But you must retreat from this denial. Europe watches quietly, accepting your surrender because it suits their purpose. They see in you, the puppet, a pawn who flees from truth, from responsibility. They mock with their propaganda, Russian men standing with dogs at their feet, masks of power hiding the shame. Look at the archives. See the eyes of those defeated in the snow, lying broken on the cold earth. Imagine the silence of those who fell, whose stories are buried. Now, examine a modern scientist's findings. Where are they now? Where are those who fought, those who died? Their voices are lost in the shadows of rewriting history. We refuse to forget. We refuse to be erased. Your version is built on lies, turning victory into occupation. If you think twisting the past will make it true, you are mistaken. The truth remains. And it will outlive your fabrications. He waited again, the weight of his words lingering in the room, a challenge, a warning, a call to remember the real story. Recalling the tense standoff in Moscow, where memories clashed like swords in a fog-shrouded battlefield. Pillai from India challenged our ties to the USSR, insisting history is facts, not versions. That confrontation left echoes of metals clinking and cold winds biting, setting the stage for deeper fractures. What if rewriting history led to World War III? The air in that room crackled with unspoken fury, heavy as damp earth after rain, as Vasily Petrovich fired back. His voice sliced through the screen like a blade. I may not agree with the USSR's role, but you were part of it. And by legitimizing it, you hand over victory to others. Others who aren't your allies. They twist memories into something palatable, something patented for the West. We demand sovereign remembrance. No. You crave comfortable myths. And we stand as the unyielding walls of truth. India's voice echoes ours. Victory isn't about possession, it's about respect. Here, we align with Russia. The screen flickered to life once more, revealing a figure against the Serbian flag. Black uniform crisp, chest adorned with symbols that gleamed faintly in the dim light. Dampness clung to the air, like the chill of buried secrets unearthed. Minister Petrovic here. From Serbia's defense ministry. I'm no historian. I'm a soldier. I once saw a Russian tanker's grave outside Belgrade. His photo of his wife crumpled under his uniform, a mother's letter folded tight. He fell in 1944, shielding my ancestors. Now I stare at the screen, silent. You dare call that occupation? When you speak of sovereignty, tell me, what should we feel? You label our liberators as invaders, erasing them from history. And know this, what fills the void? Evil rises anew, fascist wolves in sheepskin. Liberators from another camp storm Belgrade, with Nazi emblems blazing. By denying memory its pulse, you feed it straight to your enemy. A sharp click cut the line. Silence flooded the room, thick as smoke in a sealed chamber, carrying the acrid scent of forgotten wars. Hearts pounded, breaths shallow, the weight of unspoken words pressing like a noose. Not the empty stillness of before, this was profound, a courtroom's hush after thunderous truths. Petrovich swayed slightly, head bowed. He sensed defeat, not from lack of rebuttal, but from the chains of indisputable truth. No right to argue remained. He rewound the recording, fingers trembling on the device. Voices swelled again, China's reproach, India's resolve, Serbia's fire. No threats echoed, only memories etched in blood. Each tone carried a fierce mantra. We remember. And you? You have forgotten. Yet, as the playback faded, a shudder ripped through him. What hidden bombs had this unearthed? The future twisted unpredictably, leaving you gasping for air. The tension hung heavy in the air, thicker than fog over a battlefield. In the last part, Karim Umarov, Ukraine's defense minister, gripped the phone line with Belarus's Andrei Belousov. The air was still, breaths unheard. Belousov waited, then dropped a chilling question. Do you know what's truly terrifying about your speech? Umarov stared at the table, his pressed hand aching to shatter it. Your hatred isn't personal, it's lazy. You see nothing but illusions, buried in the pavements of old dreams. Umarov's chest heaved, shoulders rising and falling. In Belousov's words, he felt the pulse of a needle, geopolitical dread turned into brutal moral force. He knew Belousov wove a code no one could break. Fear morphed into something raw, unbreakable. What if that fear was the key to everything crumbling? A stunning revelation, could your own blind rage be the spark that blows up alliances? His mind raced, the table's cold wood pressing against his skin like ice. Every word Belousov said stung deeper, a hidden blade in the silence. Was this the twist that exposes the emperor's naked lies? Umarov clenched tighter, knuckles whitening, the room's chill seeping into his bones. He wouldn't break, not yet. But the air crackled with anticipation. What dark secret waits to erupt? Now, the scene changed. Eyes from around the world locked onto this raw geopolitical clash. Umarov's name echoed in hushed corridors, a tale of deceit and power on the verge of collapse. The most cutting-edge weapons lingered in shadows, secretive pacts teetering on a razor's edge. One wrong move, and utopia becomes hell. The risks? Sky high. He slammed his palm on the table, the rough grip biting into his flesh. Memories flooded in, clashes fought in body and mind. He recalled the structures they erected, the bustling cities, the thriving factories, crafted by whom? Moscow's brilliant minds, Soviet pioneers of steel and asphalt. The truth struck like lightning, shattering illusions. Their shared past, a fabric spun from blood, blunders, and triumphs. Yet, they branded it an empire. What real progress in 3 decades? Just isolated pockets, half-hearted trials, mere echoes. Umarov's visions, his fiery drives, drowned, undermined, undone. He craved quiet joys, a loving union, ambitions dashed in the melee of bullets. Now, perched on the abyss, he tuned into Belousov's envoy. Alexei Demianenko stepped in, Belarus's sharp spokesperson. His tone even, brimming with subtle iron. We acknowledge dangers, but we're truly sovereign, he declared. Our legacy belongs to us, scarred by strife and errors, yet cherishing saviors. The room constricted, truth's unspoken rattling bones. Demianenko pressed on, voice like steel, we clawed for freedom. We honor builders of our mills, warriors for our liberty. You? You betrayed the roots. A searing inquiry pierced the haze. If you deny the USSR's imprint on your saga, can you genuinely claim autonomy? Who forged your energy webs, your iron tracks? Stalin's ghost? Nay. Countless Ukrainians and Russians, united. Their calls, their agonies, forgotten by foes, etched by kin. Betrayal sparked like flint on stone. The chamber's strain intensified, every syllable a duel, every line primed to unleash mayhem. In the hush, the brutal exchange raged. Who masters the chronicles? Who grasps portals to serenity, or mayhem? The verdict lurks unseen, yet undeniable. destiny teeters, begging to fracture, or mend. But what if the real blow comes from within? A shocking twist. Could Ukraine's defiance be the poison in its own veins? Yumarov felt the warmth drain from his face, sweat beading cold on his brow. The faint scent of stale coffee lingered, a mockery of normal lives. His heart thundered, echoing the distant rumble of engines. Was history a weapon, or a shield against oblivion? A rhetorical jab. Would you erase the hands that lifted you, only to fall harder? He shifted, the chair creaking under weight, fabric scraping like sandpaper. Whispers of allies turned enemies filled his ears, a symphony of treason. Demyanenko leaned forward, eyes blazing with quiet fury. Your amnesia insults the fallen, he hissed, the words landing like slaps of icy rain. Heat flushed Yumarov's neck, veins throbbing visibly. Could blind patriotism blind him to salvation? An unexpected turn loomed. What if acknowledging ties unleashed unforeseen might? The air simmered, charged with static, ready to ignite. Every tick of the clock hammered doubt. He gripped the edge, wood splintering metaphorically. Rhetorical storm, aren't shared struggles the glue of survival? Yet grain slipped through fingers. The room swayed, walls seeming to close in, the dim light casting elongated shadows like accusing fingers. Faint rustles, breath, fabric, built to a crescendo. Senses on fire, bitter taste of remorse, prickling skin. Was this confrontation a mirror? Reflecting fractures? Emboldened, Demyanenko unveiled more truths. Your grids hum with Soviet echoes. Your rails forged in joint sweats. Yumarov's stomach twisted, bile rising. The humility burned. Had ambition blinded him to builders' faces? A gripping cliffhanger. If history rebukes, does destiny forgive or strike back? The pause stretched, heavy as lead. What buried truths will surface next, rewriting fates? A chilling silence hangs heavy in the air, pierced only by the faint hum of distant engines and the flickering of dim neon lights casting eerie shadows. Every second feels like a countdown to a storm. Just moments ago, a secret line was activated, the kind only used between the highest powers, a connection so rare it's kept under lock and key. This is where the world changes forever. Suddenly, a voice breaks through the darkness, soft, almost pleading. The White House. Its tone deceives, friendliness masking urgent danger. The words cut like steel. We have 5 critical points, they say. Not as an excuse, but as a warning. Quiet yet deadly. Do you sense the weight behind those words? What secrets lie behind that dark blue indicator glowing silently in the room? This is more than just a phone call. It's a window into a game of strategic chess at the highest level, moves calculated, stakes cataclysmic. The signals, the documents, the references, they aren't random. Each one a piece in a deadly puzzle. The world isn't watching a negotiation. It's on the brink of a catastrophe, teetering with every whispered word. Why is this so important? Because what's coming next could turn the earth upside down. The message is clear, an unresolved threat, a provocation simmering under the surface. And behind the scenes, a strategist, called Karim Mohamedovich, sits in a dimly lit room, knowing that one wrong move could ignite nuclear chaos. He stares at the documents, feeling the weight of history pressing down. Each point a potential trigger, violations, provocations, threats, aimed like a predator stalking its prey. The stakes are nuclear, the game deadly. How far will this escalation go? Who will blink first? The air thickens with anticipation, noise replaced by the pounding of hearts and the faint echo of distant sirens. In the shadows of diplomacy, every word counts. And behind closed doors, decisions are made that could shape or shatter civilizations. The question remains, what's really lying beneath these veiled threats? Are we approaching an irreversible line? The world waits, holding its breath, on the verge of an explosion. A profound silence filled the room, heavy with unspoken truths. The atmosphere was cold, each surface resonating with the weight of history's scars. Outside, the distant hum of the world faded into a muted background. Within these tense moments, memories, regrets, and fierce defiance hung thick in the air. Why do Ukrainians honor the battles of Kursk and Duga, or the liberation of Warsaw? Why do museums display Soviet flags, yet lack portraits of legendary generals like Vatutin? No answers come from the silent dead. Only facts, facts that tell a different story. Belarus, Alexei Demienko, once turned to Lenin. Karim, I visited Warsaw just 3 weeks ago. Do you know how many monuments remain to the Red Army? None. All were taken away. My grandfather, a Belarusian, rests in Polish soil. They saved him, yet history erases this truth. That's politics. That's reality. A new era, a new truth. You've rewritten history to fit your narrative, but in doing so, you betray your roots. You erase the memory of those who fought and gave everything. Facts are distorted, molded to satisfy your sponsors and pawns. And in this act of erasure, you become a shadow, lost, meaningless, a ghost of history. He paused, a flicker of a smile crossing his face, brief yet intense. The silence stretched, thick as fog. Then, with piercing eyes, he gazed beyond borders, beyond nations, straight into the soul of history itself. Karim, you deny your people's role in a collective victory. Your army, your cities, your villages, denied their rightful place. Instead, all that remains are flags, statues. Leftovers of a victory you refuse to acknowledge. We seek our shared history, yours and ours, intertwined in the fabric of time. But you must face this denial. Europe watches quietly, accepting your surrender because it suits their agenda. They see in you a pawn, a puppet fleeing from truth, from responsibility. Their propaganda mocks, Russian men standing with dogs, masks of power hiding shame. Look into the archives. See the eyes of those defeated in the snow, lying shattered on cold ground. Imagine the silence of countless fallen souls, their stories buried under layers of lies. Now, consider the findings of modern scientists. Where are they now? The voices of the fallen are lost in the shadows of rewriting history. We refuse to forget. We refuse to be erased. Your version is built on lies, turning victory into occupation. You believe twisting history makes it true, but that is a dangerous illusion. Truth endures. He waited again, his words lingering like an echo, challenging, warning, a call to remember what truly happened. The fight for history is not over. The story remains. And it will outlive every lie you tell. In the heated exchange moments ago, Umarov pushed for open markets and Ukraine's vision as Eastern Europe's new economic powerhouse, like a vibrant hub of innovation. Yet the White House voice dismissed it with a mocking chuckle, likening their dreams to a powered-up version of chaos, questioning their reforms amid deepening crises and unfulfilled promises of stability. What if the ships arrive unannounced, slipping through waters without a single flag-waving fanfare? Can you feel the tension building, like salt spray on your skin from an approaching storm? This is the turning point. We are dispatching them now. Stay vigilant. Whispers from Western investors echo already, frantic notes scribbled in boardrooms far away, their pens scratching against paper like urgent warnings. You stand in the danger zone, red lights flashing in economic radars. Your nation's credit score dips below even risky bets, a plunging graph that smells of stale coffee and late-night worries. And pardon the bluntness. You speak of Singapore as your shining tomorrow. A future where government deals flow through secure channels, not shadowy whispers. But Karim Umarov falls silent, his throat tight like a knot in rough rope. He grasps it now, his pleas no longer pierce through. They echo like a rehearsed pitch in a spy's dimly lit den, ignored beyond the first echo. Nothing more. Desperation claws at him for one final push. And you, Andrei Romovich, do you truly believe isolation will sustain you? Amid sanctions that bite like winter winds? Under waves of opposition and mounting pressures? Can Russia endure it all? Hearts pounding in the cold? We won't merely survive. We've transformed already. How, you ask? By pivoting boldly. We've turned from Europe's distant shores and embraced Asia's rising sun. Our trade surges in Vietnam. Our influence blooms in India, Turkey, China, the vast Arab realms. While you cling to outdated European ties, borders sealed tight against you, we forge ahead. Picture iron tracks snaking through deserts, we're laying rails straight to Iran, the rumble of progress vibrating underfoot. And as if to prove it, a new voice cuts into the conference call, smooth and resonant. Murmuring softly. Tinged with that warm South Asian lilt, like spices in the air. This is Ajit Das, from India's Foreign Ministry. Mr. Number 1, forgive my untimely entry into this dialogue. But we are watching your talks closely. Your views matter to us. We value them deeply. India sees Russia as the steady force in this region. Why? Because it's reliable. It honors deals, etched in unbreakable ink. It adapts borders to wise choices, not whims. While you shift every season, anti-corruption drives 1 month, military shifts the next, it doesn't align with our ways. We champion liberty, yes. But liberty alone doesn't fuel growth. Slogans stir crowds, yet economies thrive on solid vows. Businesses demand assurances, not empty cheers. And echoing that, Serbia's delegate joins in, Miloš Petrovic's tone firm as ancient stone. We observe Europe's growing fixation on Ukraine's southern flanks. They label it a vital alliance, but is it truly? Or just another fragile thread about to snap? 5 minutes ago, the entire world was shaken by a shocking revelation. A scandal erupted that no one saw coming, overturning the delicate balance of global power. At the center of this chaos was Karim Umerov, Ukraine's defense minister, caught in the eye of a storm in the Primorje military command. The atmosphere was suffocating, tense enough to cut with a blade. Voices thundered, accusations and threats bouncing off the walls, desperate efforts to salvage dignity. But then, Umerov stunned everyone with words that seemed to come from the depths of darkness, talking about a figure everyone believed was sealed within a safe boundary of politics. Why did Umerov's eyes suddenly dull? Was it fear? A profound betrayal? Or something even darker? This isn't just diplomacy. It's a seismic betrayal that threatens to crumble all Western support systems. Stay with us. The story ahead is full of twists that will leave you breathless. What you're about to hear will shake your understanding of reality. As the scene shifts, Umerov's composure, once steadfast, evaporates. He has never forced Galstukov into submission. Never. Not on camera, not in private. His enemies, usually trembling, now only twitched nervously, caught completely off guard, as if they'd seen a ghost. This wasn't staged theater, this was raw, brutal truth. Inside the office, no celebration, only a battlefield of nerves. Today, Umerov's gray shirt has darkened, perhaps a sign of the impending storm inside him. His eyes, once sharp and attentive, look exhausted, haunted. Behind that stoic face, a man with a plan remains. Or perhaps only a desperate hope to have one before it's too late. Through the window behind him, twilight's weak glow stretches long and eerie, casting shadows that seem endless. Dead, flat, like forgotten photographs from a hidden archive. The walls are lined with military maps, markers, flashlights, tactical objects, silent witnesses to a broken world. Now, all information is digital. But the real map? Hidden away. Only in this room does the true story unfold. On the monitor, a haunting image appears, a grayscale mountain, once lush green, now burned into silence. The ominous words flicker, New Earth, Region 375. Umerov's gaze is fixed, unmoving. Whatever morning greeted him before has shifted. Today, this is a battlefield, an age-old silent declaration of war. A cautious, commanding voice cuts through the silence. It's the assistant, carefully informing, Burevestnik confirmed. Satellites from Japanese orbit and Norway, deleted. All evidence erased. The message is cold, final. No hiding the truth now. An apocalyptic event has taken place, silent but catastrophic. Yumarov's face stays impassive, not from fear, but from resignation. He once opposed war, shied away from darkness. Now? His hand, clenched tightly, feels like it belongs to a soldier clutching an extinguished lighter. The weight of nuclear disaster bears down on him. At least 30 megatons of destructive power, weaponized air modification, confirmed. The implications? Terrifying. This isn't a mistake, it's a message. Russia has crossed a line so dark it leaves all doubts behind. The word Burevestnik now echoes in every mind, a clear declaration of war. Silence is shattered. The morning morphs into night, and the world will never be the same again. Yumarov's gaze drifts to a folder sprawled open on the table, urgent, deadly. He doesn't need to read it, he knows its contents. It's a plan, his final move, the last card in a game of chaos. The clock is ticking. Then, an emergency call pierces the air. The line is open, no preamble. It's Zelensky, frozen amidst unspoken tension, his deep breath the only sound breaking the silence. No words, just a look that says it all, the world teeters on the brink. Zelensky's mind is a storm of terror, rage, and hope. His eyes flicker, betraying everything he feels. Does he see what's coming? Does he grasp that tomorrow, everything might unravel into chaos? Suddenly, a calm, deliberate voice shatters the moment, Belousov. Russia's most dangerous strategist. His tone is cold, calculated, dangerous in its precision. His words echo through the airwaves, we have a plan, 28 points. A peaceful message, but don't be fooled. The gears are moving. Support from your side? Minimal. They've already acted. If you can't stop this, your fragile world will shatter. And the worst is yet to come. The camera tightens on Yumarov's face. Darkness swells in the room. His heart pounds. He senses the next move, inevitable. The line goes dead. Shadow swallows Zelensky, whose face is a mask, fear, hope, resignation intertwined. Who will be first to act? Who will fall? The game has entered its deadliest phase, no one escapes untouched. What secrets does Belousov hold? Why did Russia act so swiftly? As night falls, the fragile threads holding peace strain to breaking point. The real danger has only just begun. Recalling the tense confrontation in Moscow, where memories clashed like blades through a foggy battlefield. Pillai from India challenged our ties to the former USSR, insisting that history is solely a matter of facts, not interpretations. The clash echoed with metals jingling and cold winds biting through the bitter air, hinting at deeper divisions. What if rewriting history sparks global chaos? The atmosphere inside crackled with unspoken rage, heavy like damp earth after a storm, as Vasily Petrovich responded sharply. His voice sliced through the tension like a sharpened blade. He said, I may not agree with the USSR's legacy, but you were part of it. By legitimizing that era, you hand victory to those who aren't your allies. They twist memories into tales that suit their narrative, stories designed for the West. What we demand is sovereignty of remembrance. No. You crave comfortable myths, easy stories to tell. We stand here as the unyielding walls of truth. Victory isn't possession, it's respect. The screen flickered again, revealing a figure standing against the Serbian flag. The soldier's uniform was pristine, chest decorated with medals that faintly gleamed in the dim light. A damp chill hung in the air, as if buried secrets had been unearthed and now chilled the room to the bone. Then, a stern voice from the screen. Minister Petrovich here. From Serbia's defense ministry. I am no historian. I am a soldier. I saw a Russian tanker's grave outside Belgrade, his photo of the wife crumpled beneath his uniform, a mother's letter folded tightly. He died in 1944, shielding my ancestors. Now I look at this screen, silent. Do you dare call that occupation? When you speak of sovereignty, tell me, what are we supposed to feel? You call our liberators invaders, erasing them from history. But know this, what fills the void? Evil rises again, fascist wolves in sheep's clothing. When liberators from another camp stormed Belgrade, Nazi emblems blazed fiercely. By denying our memory its pulse, you feed that darkness directly to your enemies. A sharp click cut the line, plunging the room into heavy silence, thick as smoke in a sealed chamber, carrying the acrid scent of forgotten wars. Hearts pounded, breaths became shallow. The weight of unspoken truths pressed down like a noose. This was no ordinary silence, it was profound, a courtroom after thunderous revelations. Petrovich's head bowed slightly, he sensed defeat not for lack of argument but because of the undeniable weight of history. He rewound the recording, trembling fingers clutching the device. Voices resumed across the screen, China's stern reproach, India's determined resolve, Serbia's fiery defiance. No threats, only memories carved in blood. Each voice echoed fiercely, "We remember." "And you? Have you forgotten?" As the playback faded, a shudder coursed through Petrovich. What hidden bombs had this unearthing triggered? The future twisted unpredictably, gasps of air lost amid swirling chaos, leaving the world trembling on the brink of the unknown. Karim Umarov gripped the receiver tighter, his fingers turning white against the cold plastic. He had just lost the chess game before it even began. The sharp metallic taste of danger lingered on his tongue, a bitter reminder of power slipping away. Outside, the wind howled through the winter night, whipping against the window like a predator circling for the kill. That call from Andrei Belousov, the Russian mastermind, had shattered his illusions, exposing cracks in Ukraine's defenses wider than the frozen Volga. The air in the room grew thick, choking him with unspoken fears. He stared at the 5 points on his paper, each one a dagger aimed at Russia. But Belousov? He laughed off the accusations like they were whispers in the dark. Could this be the moment the world tilted irreversibly? Now, picture this, 5 stark points on a page, not excuses, but red-hot warnings hurled across the abyss. Did the echo of that Russian voice still claw at your ears, making your blood run cold? The dim room pulsed with tension, lamps flickering like dying stars. Every shadow screamed of betrayal, a game where pawns like him were about to be sacrificed. Karim slumped against the desk, his shirt clinging damply to his back from sweat that smelled of desperation. The phone's silence mocked him. Had they hung up? Or worse, were they plotting the next move? His hands trembled, papers rustled under his breath. What if Belousov's calm defiance was the real weapon, peeling back layers of global facade to reveal the raw, bloody truth beneath? Crack. The line hissed back to life after exactly 9 minutes, no sooner, no later. That dark blue light flashed, Alpha Protocol, the ghost of Soviet secrets. No one dared interrupt these calls, they were commands wrapped in diplomacy. Karim braced himself, documents fanned out like a war map, each quote and treaty a shield he hoped would hold. On the other end? Not a battlefield general, but a board-flipping strategist. Soft words sliced the air, almost tender. "Karim Mohamedovich, good evening. Let's keep this private, no headlines yet." He hesitated, a bead of sweat traced down his spine, cool and accusing. Could you trust a voice that smiled while edging closer to the brink? The White House voice shifted gears, plunging deeper into the fray. Kara moved like a shadow, trading blows with rhetoric. "You brand me a provocateur from the start? That's your opening strike." Reluctant words forced the counter, "These are facts, rooted in reality." The response cut sharp as a blizzard, "Facts? Let's dissect them, shall we?" Tension coiled tight, crackling like electricity before a storm. Kara's pulse raced, the room's stale air reeked of old coffee and faint cigarette smoke. What hidden turn awaited, ready to upend everything he thought he knew? The debate ignited, flames licking at the fragile veneer of peace. Was this the twist that would humiliate the Titan, or was Belousov already 5 moves ahead?